Imagine that you are multiplying very big numbers. In this case, I've simplified. I use pretty basic numbers. 10,000 times 100,000. If I write these as 10 raised to a power, that's 10 to the fourth times 10 to the fifth. Then I could use the properties of exponents. That I know that when the base is the same, how do I simplify when I'm multiplying? What do I do with the exponents? I add them up, right? So 10 to the 4 plus 5 is 10 to the 9th, which is this big number. So by dealing with the exponents, we're turning multiplication into addition, right? So like I said, logarithms are exponents. Logarithms were invented in 1609 by a guy named John Napier. We used to have a student here by that name, John Napier, same name exactly. And at that time, if you can imagine, they were just, it was like after Copernicus, before Galileo, telescopes had been invented. They were starting to be able to study the stars, and they were starting to try to do calculations with what they were seeing. It was really hard to do calculations when you're talking about the distances between planets and the sun and things like that when the numbers are that big. Imagine the people at that time. They didn't have calculators. They didn't have computers. How would they do math with these huge numbers? Well, that's where this John Napier guy comes in, and he says, well, what if we just kind of represent all the numbers by the power we would raise 10 to? That'll be our tables of logarithms. So we'll convert all of our numbers, we'll convert them to their exponents. Then we can just add when we mean to multiply, and then we'll kind of do a reverse lookup in our table of logarithms to find out what number it must have come from. No, we already did exponents. But understand, in those, a lot of things came after that. And the one thing that I always point to is, we definitely knew at that time that the Earth was going around the sun and not the other way around. But it was only by doing these kinds of calculations in about the next 100 years that we realized our orbit actually was not circular. It's elliptical. It's a little longer in one direction than it is the other. There's no way they would be able to tell that without the calculations that they were able to do with logarithms. Okay, and in fact, if you saw the orbit of the Earth around the sun, to your naked eye, it looks pretty circular. It's not off by much, but it's off by a little, and they were able to tell that. It's actually a German astrologer named Kepler. Okay, so that was why logarithms were developed.